All right, guys. Episode 5, Heart of the Order. Episode what? This is episode 2 of Quarantine Life, right?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Got my
Um,
quarantine beard going.
with quarantine beard going. I shaved mine the other day. I went for a mustache for a couple days, and I was like, eh. I
Like,
FaceTime with my family and my grandparents. They're like, "What is that on your lip?" And I was like, So quarantine life, we're stuck inside. The MLB season is still postponed for right now. Guys, at this point, they're going to have to play a shortened season. They're going to have to come up with something creative in order to kind of get all these games in or play a shortened season, double headers at the end of the year or something like that. What do you think they can do to kind of either get all these games in or make this season somewhat exciting towards the end as they get back into it? If they get back into it, who knows what will happen now. But what do you think the MLB could do to kind of, remedy this situation? Defeat the coronavirus.
I think it's down to like when they can actually start playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's May, then you can really try to squeeze in, not definitely the 162, but you could get up to maybe like the 140 value or something along those lines. But like it has to be, if it's beyond that, I think just having like a truncated, balanced schedule. Like I'm just curious where like teams and schedule makers are at. You have to have like balanced schedules like within the division. So maybe they'll cut some like interleague play and just have like 100 game, or how many, 14 teams in each league, and you play like each of those teams like 8 times or something, and that's your schedule. And then maybe they'll just have to get a little creative.
Yeah, cutting interleague play seems like the first logical choice, just because I believe there's like 24 or 26 interleague play games, so you kind of should start there. And then I believe after that, the focus would definitely be within the division in terms of games, because that's what's most important when it comes down to actually making the playoffs. But it's definitely going to be interesting. Speaking of like when the season starts, I'm curious as how this affects certain things like Super 2 status.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that the other day with guys like Brian Hayes and Cole Tucker getting sent down for the Pirates. It's like, okay, when does their eligibility exactly kick in? So that's another issue that I have. But it's going to be interesting. Like Brooks, you said, time will tell because we need a definitive date more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, we can't. Nothing can really be decided until they decide when they can play again. And even at that point, even if they decide to come back in May, they're gonna need, like, I would say probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe to kind of ramp things back up. I mean, you can't just throw a guy out on the mound that just started pitching again. I mean, you got to give him like 2 or 3 weeks to like kind of like ramp his arm back up and things like that. I mean, I'm sure guys are staying ready. I've seen videos of Joe Musgrove and things like that guys are still training and stuff like that, but it's not the same as pitching live in a game. So it's definitely going to be interesting to kind of see how they do it. It's been kind of funny to see like proposed ideas for other leagues. I don't know if you guys saw like Spencer Dinwiddie for the Nets proposed like the NBA playing like a March Madness style bracket with all like 30 NBA teams when the league comes back, like playing 2 weeks of just like kind of scrimmage games and stuff like that, and then playing like a March Madness style bracket for the NBA to decide who the champion is.
I love that, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I mean, you have the top 8 teams, but and I would assume those guys would come out, but who knows, because guys like the Pelicans are outside looking in. But my only issue with that is, how do you determine the draft order?
It would be all like, instead of just taking like the top 8 teams from both conferences, it would be all 32 teams. 30?
Yeah.
So like no one would be left out of the playoffs. But then like I don't know how they would determine the draft order. That's a good question, but I just thought it was interesting to kind of have like an interesting take on how leagues could kind of figure everything out and how interesting it is kind of.
It's definitely
But
interesting. I would. It just made me think of an idea of like for the schedules. Maybe do like World Baseball Classic style or Little League World Series style, where you just make one giant big tournament, and then that could be the season, and then whoever finishes top 5, I guess, play for your seeds, and then you go do normal playoffs from there.
yeah, could be interesting. And leagues are definitely going to have to kind of get creative as time goes on and as we kind of run out of time in the year, if you know what I mean. I mean, at this point, do you guys think that they would cancel the All-Star game and just kind of cut that weekend out altogether?
It makes sense.
Yeah, I think it may be a casualty.
And I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, I'll miss the Derby, which is one of my favorite events of the year. But, it's in the end, it's just an exhibition series.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really all that important. You get those 4 days you can use those to make the schedule.
Yeah, to kind of make it work, kind of bring games back into it, bring in the swing of things and things like that. Definitely going to be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. But hopefully, guys, we have baseball back sooner rather than later, because this is kind of getting ridiculous. I mean, opening day would be in what, a week?
Should be tomorrow.
This week, tomorrow.
Yeah,
Opening day would be tomorrow.
it'd be tomorrow from when we're doing this recording.
Guys, we would have baseball back tomorrow.
That's so sad.
This is ridiculous.
I'm cool with staying at home. If I get to watch daytime baseball, that's kind of the best part about it.
I remember last year we were moving into this apartment that I'm in now, and we didn't have cable yet. And the Red Sox were supposed to play during the day, and the cable guy was coming, and he opened the door. I'm like, dude, Red Sox play in 45 minutes. He can get it done. He's like, oh yeah, I can get it done. Never got it done.
Still to this day.
Instead, I mean, I have cable, but the guy talked about playing Xbox for about an hour, and so he didn't get it done in time for the Red Sox game. So
I don't need cable to play Xbox.
But it wasn't like, I don't know. He was all over the place. It was fun. But more news, guys, going on in the MLB. Another pitcher last night got diagnosed, or not diagnosed. I don't even know how to say it. It was revealed that he needed to get Tommy John surgery, and that was New York Mets pitcher Noah Syndergaard. Another one was last week, either before or after we recorded, was Chris Sale, Boston Red Sox. Was decided that he finally is getting Tommy John surgery. I would assume this has to do something with the season getting postponed. I mean, he was kind of on a break, and he wasn't throwing, and then he came back and he threw a bullpen session or something before everything got postponed. And it was decided, I guess he must add a little more tenderness or something. He ended up deciding to get Tommy John surgery. This is wild, guys. This is wild. I don't know how you go from being all right to not having Tommy John surgery to throwing one session to needing Tommy John surgery. The only explanation that I can think of would be that, all right, the season is probably already halfway gone, quarter of a way gone. We might as well just bite the bullet and get Tommy John surgery.
I mean, when you think about it, it definitely makes sense for a guy like Noah Syndergaard to get Tommy John.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that ever since he's debuted, he's been throwing 99 miles an hour, and he's still at it, and with the uncertainty in the air when first pitch is going to happen, if he has that elbow discomfort, why not take the time to, get this process going? Because the more time you waste on delaying the surgery is closer to the season actually starting, and it looks like he's aiming to come back next April. And a conservative time I saw timeline could be the All-Star break, which would be a 15-month recovery.
Yeah.
That's normal. But bottom line is that, it makes sense. It just sucks. Because, how the hell do you decide right now when you haven't pitched in 2 weeks to now get Tommy John when no one even knew about your elbow discomfort in the first place? That's the only real question I have about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with Syndergaard, I saw that he got the first MRI on it before like everything was suspended,
Mhm.
and then now he got like a second opinion, and now is like going forward with it. But I feel like in the Chris Sale situation, like that one definitely is a case where it's like, well, I don't know when I'm gonna like pitch in a game again, so I might as well get this done to be
Mhm.
square for this time.
Mhm.
I feel like every month is so valuable. If Sale would have got that done
Like a month
November,
ago.
I mean it's a lost season, but it's like hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Like, I mean, imagine if he goes under the knife like 2 weeks ago, or like when he first discovered the like discomfort and stuff like that. That's another month, maybe a little less, that he could be recovering and possibly be back for like opening day of next year or like early season next year. I mean, because if you think about it, guys, as much as I hate to admit it, this season's probably lost already for the Red Sox. So like, I'd rather have my ace back.
You're admitting it now?
Yeah.
Shortened season helps.
They didn't admit it when they traded Mookie Betts.
I mean, now it's definitely lost. Not like with Chris Sale gone. Now it's definitely lost. And I think in that preview, I said, if we don't have Chris Sale, there's probably not much hope. But yeah, you should have seen your eyes light up, Trey. That was funny.
The realization just hit me. It just hit me. Oh, man. I've been there. I feel that.
Yeah, but I mean, he's gone. So, I mean, like, I'd rather have him healthy, like back to like normal Chris Sale self for next year rather than have him at 75-80% this year and for a lost season anyway.
I'm not going to lie with Chris Sale. I'm amazed that it took him this long to actually get Tommy John.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer fact, when you watch the torque on that elbow when he throws, it's incredible. It literally bends backwards. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
It's all like 160 pounds, all 6'5" of them into it. But like one thing that's like, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure like DeGrom, Harvey, Wheeler, Matz, and Syndergaard all have had Tommy John surgeries.
Yep.
So like all those 5 aces for the Mets, all
that's crazy.
Marred.
Do you think more injuries like this kind of come out in the next like 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Like, do you think we'll start seeing more guys like this decide, if they're guys that are like on the fence a little bit with an injury or something, decide to go under the knife rather than kind of push through it because of what's going on in the season in the MLB right now?
Pitchers, yeah, because so much of it is like the uncertainty of what's coming their way. Like what can you do with your arm? What's the best path to go? Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to follow.
Yeah, and again, hindsight's 2020. You look at a guy like Luis Severino, who's probably so thankful, I guess, in a small way that this is happening, this whole delay of the season, because he got his Tommy John back, in early March. So, he'll be back way ready to go come 2021.
Yeah, he kind of, is able to bide his time a little more. I mean, he was one of the first guys that went down. So you see he has a little more extra recovery time for next year, and, he could possibly be back towards the beginning of the season. I mean, with an injury or a surgery like Tommy John, you never really know. Everything's kind of up in the air. But it is what it is. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be interesting season to see how they figure it out, how injuries come out, and things like that. So it's definitely gonna be. Hopefully, baseball is back sooner rather than later. So let's get into our preview section of this episode. We're gonna do our favorite NL Central and put Brooksy and Dre through the ringer with the Pirates.
I got time.
And
plenty of time.
And we're going to talk about the AL Central as well. I mean, we do have plenty of time. Let's start with the AL Central, and then we'll get into the NL Central. We'll save the best for last today. So last season we had this. I don't even know what to say about this division because it's like it feels like it's a different team every year. I mean, the Twins kind of came out of nowhere last year and won the division, winning 101 games. going 101 and 61. Then you have the Indians, who are 8 games back of them, the White Sox, the Royals, the Tigers. It's kind of like a toss-up every year in this division. It feels like you never know who's going to take it. Most of the time, I feel like it's been the Indians, lately, at least in the last 5-6 years. But last year was the Twins. Is this year, guys? Is it going to be as much of a toss-up, or do you think it's the Twins division again?
I think it's as much of a toss-up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Twins, the Yankees were the first most home runs in the season. Twins were the second.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though they got Donaldson, I think there'll be like some regression to the mean there. But I just think the Indians, they lost Kluber, but they still have Carrasco, Bieber, and Clevenger. I still feel like their arms are good, but then the White Sox, they cashed in, and like this is their sort of chance to be on that same tier. So I think it's a 3-team race where it could go anyway.
Yeah, legitimate 3-team race, to be honest, and that's because of the moves that the White Sox made this offseason, starting with I believe they actually kicked off free agency by signing catcher Yasmani Grandal.
Yep.
So they gave him 4 years, $52 million. He was the number 1 catcher on the market, and they wasted no time in getting him signed. That told me right there that they are ready to open up this window. And you look at a team with their talent, why wouldn't they be ready to open up this window? I mean, they have one of the best farm systems in baseball, and all those guys are starting to come up right now. Guys like Nick Madgrell from I butchered that name terribly. Second baseman. They have. I don't have the roster up right now because
Yohan Moncada, they just signed him to a new deal at third. He's moving.
Eloy Jimenez, but
Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson is kind of the lockdown of that lineup.
I love Tim Anderson.
Yeah, I mean they got a lineup top to bottom. Mm-hmm. They got Jose Abreu. They signed Edwin Encarnacion this offseason. The lineup is stacked from top to bottom.
And, when you, again, look at them, when you see what they already have, Luis Rodriguez, that's the guy I was thinking of, but they traded for Mazara, and then, they already had Giolito, who took a big step forward. He was once a top prospect. But the biggest thing for me was them acquiring Dallas Keuchel. $500 million. I do remember that contract, and legitimately, just they're ready to come. They're ready to come for the Twins, who I believe, like Brooksy said, takes a step back, just because they're not sneaking up on anyone this year.
Yeah.
And then when you consider the Indians, they lost Cy Young winner Kluber, but their pitching staff is still very much nasty.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, just kind of looking at this pitching staff, like you said, I mean, they got Giolito. I wonder if he has the coronavirus. And then they got Dallas Keuchel, Ray, Naldo Lopez, Dylan Cease, Gio.
Yeah, they got Gio Gonzalez.
What?
Such a delayed reaction, but I wonder if he has a coronavirus. Italian.
Oh, that just hit me too. Oh dear.
It just hit me like.
No one caught that.
I caught it so late, and it makes it so much funnier.
They got Gio Gonzalez in the number 5 spot as well. You guys think they have enough pitching to get it done? I mean, this is a question we talk about a lot with a lot of teams as we've been going through our previews. I mean, sometimes it comes down to the pitching staff having a guy out there every 5 days that can kind of get the job done. Do you think they have enough power in the lineup to kind of carry them, or do you think this pitching staff can get it done throughout the season?
I think it could. Maybe not in like in the playoff series. That's a different question. But in this one, you just got to have healthy arms that can consistently eat innings. And like Keuchel, we know that's his calling card. Gio Gonzalez also like sneakily just overperforms himself. And then you have younger arms backing it up. I think if the bullpen can support the rotation, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you consider the White Sox, I think more than anything, Their hitting is going to be questionable, and that's mainly because a lot of their guys are unproven. They have talent, but we don't know what these guys can do. If anything, it just makes everything real exciting to watch their offense. But with the pitching, I am more concerned about their bullpen than their starting rotation.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they bring out their top prospect, Michael Kopech, former Red Sox.
Yep.
He's actually back off to his Tommy John surgery, so he's ready to go. And in his spring training this year, he was touching 100. So I believe if they need him, they got that waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the White Sox are definitely going to be solid this year. We move on to the Indians, who finished 8 games back last year, and we'll work our way up to the Twins. I mean, what do you guys see this team doing this year? I mean, they're kind of up in the air in the Lindor race. Not sure what's going to happen there. It seems like they've kind of stalled talks until after the season. It'd be interesting. I mean, he's kind of the corner of that franchise. But they lost Trevor. They traded Trevor Bauer last year at the deadline. They bring back Mike Clevenger, Bieber, Carrasco, like Brooksy said, and then they have 2 kind of unproven guys at the back of the bullpen. But it seems like the lineup is just as good as ever. What do you guys think they can do this year?
I mean, I was surprised they didn't really make any their outfield.
Yeah,
I think that there's a pretty big glaring hole there. Like you still have Lindor, Ramirez, and Santana in the infield, and I think they got guy from Philadelphia, like Cesar Hernandez. That's like also going to be in the infield. So the infield is like very similar to like past years, but then like just the outfield, that was like a big hole that they needed to address. And I thought they were going to get somebody like Corey Dickerson or just somebody that could really just plug in that hole and do it well. So like I think I have no doubts in like their starting rotation and their pitchers. They just churn these guys out year in and year out, like Bieber and Clevenger. But like offensively, I worry about this team keeping up with the firepower in their own division.
Brooksy, did you just almost fall?
I went.
Uh,
My head's so big, I'm just like losing balance.
We're different today, and I like that. No, I'm with you, Brooksy. Looking at this roster top to bottom, I mean, they have a true identity, and it's their starting pitching. I know they traded Bauer, and they actually probably got stronger there, but it's going to be hard to replace a guy like Corey Kluber. But a guy like Mike Clevenger coming back really helps, ease that pain. I mean, outside of Ramirez and Lindor, I don't see a lot of great hitters on this team. Franmil Reyes got power and Carlos Santana got power, but that's 4 out of 9. And in the AL, you kind of need to have some type of offense because you do face 9. You do have 9 hitters, and they hit around 250 in order to get it done. Great starting pitching helps, but again, it's going to be hard to see how they compete with a team like the Twins, who has all of the hitters. I mean, they led the league in home runs last year. So I think it'll be tough. And you talk about a guy like Corey Dickerson. I thought a guy that they might have been able to sign because he only got a 1-year deal was Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious why they didn't go after him, but who knows? They're weird. They're a weird team. I mean, they're one of the teams that tried to trade, their star player this offseason when, they started offering Lindor and talks with the Dodgers, but I know they weren't the only team. So they're in a curious position. I still think their window's opening, but it's definitely shutting, and it's shutting fast.
Yeah, I don't know if I see them competing this year. I mean, I think they would be of the 3 teams that we've kind of talked about. I think they'd be the bottom of the barrel of those 3 teams. I mean, the Twins went out and made moves this year. The White Sox went out and made moves in the offseason, and the Indians kind of just staying pat. It seemed like they didn't really do much. They didn't make any big signings to kind of improve their position. They still have Tito Francona at the head of the bench. He's always good for a win or two. He's my guy. but I don't know. I don't know. I don't see him doing too much. We'll see how it goes for them. But then you move into the top of the division from last year with the Twins. They go out and they get involved in the big Mookie Betts trade, or they were involved in the Mookie Betts trade, and then it ended up being a different trade altogether. They bring in Kenta Maeda to kind of shore up the pitching staff with Jose Barrios, Jake Odorizzi, Michael Pineda, and Homer Bailey. So they got a solid, pretty solid starting staff. And then you go into the bullpen with Sergio Romo, Tyler Clippard, a couple other guys, Taylor Rogers, closing it out at the back end. Then you go back into this lineup from last year, guys. I mean, it's a solid lineup from top to bottom. They bring in Josh Donaldson. They got Miguel Sano, Jorge Polanco, Byron Buxton, Nelson Cruz. Man, I mean, top to bottom, it's strong. I mean, it's going to be a dog race this year, guys. I think between the Twins and the White Sox.
Mm. Yeah, if the, I mean, I think those three teams will benefit from playing the other two in the division.
Yeah,
I think like those two teams, the Royals and the Tigers, were like bottom of the league last year. So I think taking advantage of those intra-division games that are a little bit easier than in that three-team Indians, Twins, and White Sox chunk.
And I look at this team. I love this team. I really do. Like I'm such a big fan of a guy like Jose Barrios. I think he's one of the most underrated pitchers in Major League Baseball. He's only gotten better every single year. And you know, I think last year I picked him to win Cy Young. I honestly feel like I'm a year early, but you know, shortened season, who knows? We'll see what he can do. But, you know, this is definitely the most complete team in this division. And, you know, you take that lineup and you add a guy like Donaldson, bring over those 30 home run potential back to the American League where it's only going to thrive even more, you know, and you insert him in between Sano and Polanco. Kepler's a guy who hit close to 30 home runs last year, if not 30. Plus you have Nelson Cruz, who's still somehow hitting 30 to 35 home runs a year. Like it, top to bottom, is just stacked. Lineup wise, stacked. They got a good bullpen. They did like a closer by committee last year, so everyone out there kind of has that closer experience. I know they kind of have Taylor Rogers penciled in there, but see what happens. You know, this is just a very fun team to watch. And Rocco Baldelli, man, managing this club, he's really kind of rallied them and taken them to a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this division plays out if and when the season starts. They were great last year. If that carries over, they kind of snuck up on some teams last year, so hopefully that can carry over into this year. We'll kind of see how it goes, see where they go, see what happens. Yeah. But their bench coach from last year, their lead bench coach, is now the manager of your favorite Pittsburgh Pirates. Dre, do you got anything saved up to say? I know we haven't gone on a Dre rant in a long time. You got anything saved up?
There's this giant space here. It's because the weight that was on these shoulders last year is just gone. It's been lifted. From like the All-Star break on, it was just absolutely miserable to be a Pirates fan, even when you didn't watch, which I didn't, you know, fully football season, only to see Big Ben go down, and that's just woof. But that's a different podcast. We'll just, you know, stay away from the Steelers. Talk about these Pirates, man. That whole entire post All-Star break was just awful. They lost, I believe, 13 straight games to start. And, you know, they were right there, 2 games out of, you know, first place or 2 games out of wild card spot. Only to see them brawl with the Reds. They handled the deadline poorly, handled everything so bad, and then the stuff with Felipe Vasquez. I'm just so glad that Derek Shelton is managing this team, that Ben Cherington is, you know, president of baseball operations, that Frank Coonley is out, and this Trevor Williams guy is in as, you know, the president of the club. Like, we needed this. We needed a whole new regime to just completely wipe away all the mistakes of the old regime. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I'm not excited for this year. I already know what's going to happen this year. That's just it's a transition year. Something like this is going to take 3 years
Hmm.
at least, and it's already starting when I believe they found the right deal in trading Starling Marte. But yeah, I needless to say, it's a lot of relief, and I feel good about that.
Change.
That was less impassionate. I was expecting a little more fired up, Dre.
It was one of hope. And I think like after everything that happened, you have to cut it off, especially like the most sour taste in my mouth is just all these players performing better out there than they were in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think that's like reflective of player development, the people running the organization. So to get a guy like Cherington, who's like done that in other places, has like built and developed talent, that sort of instills some hope. But whenever baseball does start playing, yeah, I'm definitely not hopeful for this year. Like you guys know that video of the minor leagues where a minor league game back when they played a thing called baseball where 2 Pirates got thrown out at home, like bang, bang. Like just there's going to be stuff like that this year, maybe a little bit of next year, but like it'll be really hopeful to see some names coming up the ranks and coming up the boards, and looking forward to like seeing Brian Hayes or Key Brian hopefully at some point this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think bringing in Cherington is one of the best moves the organization has ever made. I mean, he's a guy that's continuously proved that he can develop talent time after time, from the Red Sox to, working with the Blue Jays and things like that. And I think that's what they need, because they're not a team that can go out and sign these big time free agents to bring them in to shore up their system. So they have to build up from from within their organization, and I think that's something that they haven't done. And as you can see, like you mentioned, Brooksy, with guys like Tyler Glasnow, who doesn't really have success in Pittsburgh, and then he goes out and has a AL Cy Young type year at the beginning of the year with the Rays, before kind of tapering off as he got injured. And I mean, other guys too. It's kind of going to be interesting to see what Starling Marte does this year, to see if he kind of gets a kick in the butt. But then you have guys like Chris Archer, who were kind of excelling in Tampa Bay, and they come in and they kind of taper off a little bit because the philosophy has changed. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Cherington handles everything and how he starts developing players. But like you said, Dre, it's nothing's going to happen this year. It's going to be down the road. And you never know what the Pirates could look like in a couple years. It's going to be interesting to see.
Well, hopefully they look better. And I do want to be clear about this because Glasnow has even said this on Twitter. Nothing within the farm system ranks, hindered him. All of his problems were at the major league level.
Mm-hmm.
He said he owes a lot of gratitude to every single coach, mentor he's had in the minors. Whenever it was the major league level, that's where his issues arose.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the biggest problem. The Pirates, they were never really, bad at acquiring talent. They've always, had a good farm system until recently. But the 2 trades that really kind of hindered them was the Garrett Cole trade, where he left and saw his stuff absolutely take off.
Yeah.
Because the Astros just had that great pitching philosophy, which was so simple. Stop throwing your fastball 75% of the time. Like, it's not that hard, but the pitch contact philosophy is what they had here. And then with Glasnow, his was a little bit more complicated. Like I believe that he wasn't going to succeed anywhere except Tampa Bay because his body was so long, and Tampa Bay's pitching coach specialized in that. I mean, he helped the career of like Jeremy Hellickson is a guy that I kind of really reference there because he's another guy that was just so big, like didn't couldn't control his windup and
Yeah.
replicate it in order to have success. But Glasnow stuff was always there. So once they got that figured out, it was fine. But those two trades really kind of killed them because they didn't bring back anything valuable in return.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see that Charrington understands that, the most important thing is a farm system by acquiring, high risk, high reward talent.
And develop it.
He's done that in the Marte trade.
All right, guys. So we've gotten our Pirates talk out of the way. We know what to expect from the Pirates.
For the record, 5th place in that division. That's what I expect and nothing more.
So last place in the division?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you think saying 5th place would make it sound better?
Shut up.
But this is one of my favorite divisions to talk about because every year it's a 3-4 team race. It seems like you never know what's going to happen with the Reds. You never know what moves they're going to make. And over the last couple of years, the Cubs have gotten into the division. Cubs have gotten into the conversation. The Brewers are always there. The Cardinals are always there. The Pirates have been there every once in a while over the past 5-6 years. I mean, how do you guys see this division playing out? I mean, it's interesting year after year. But what do you think about this season coming up? Brooksy.
Well, perpetually, the Cardinals will always be competing. I mean, they won the division last year, and they will always just be in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them as a team, especially their manager, but especially the moves that they made. Like, it's tough not to be like, oh, the Reds are going for it, taking those advanced steps. I think those two teams are in a higher tier, in my opinion, than the Brewers are right below. Then I don't know what's going on with the Cubs because they're like financially ruined. But I see it as a 4-team race in the order of Cardinals, Reds, Brewers, and Cubs.
I just want to take this time and say I hate the Reds, strictly because of that brawl and their manager, who, he's just a psychopath, a narcissistic psycho. Just listening to him regarding, guys coming after him or pitchers coming after his hitters, and then, him going out there and just kind of having the guys start a brawl. It's like, I got to defend my honor, my team's honor. Like, screw him. But needless to say, their moves, I like them. I just can't see them succeeding just because the ballpark they play in. It's kind of like Coors Field East. Just balls fly out of Great American Ballpark. So you can have all the pitchers in the world. It's just going to be tough to keep balls in the yard. So that brings us to the other teams. The Cubs are kind of, I guess you could say, cap strapped. Even though there's no cap, they're just trying to stay on their luxury tax. So if I were to pick a favorite, I'd probably pick the Cardinals because they are, as I've said before, the New England Patriots of Major League Baseball, where guys just leave and they lost Marcell Ozuna, and they're just sliding in Tyler O'Neill. But I guarantee he hits like 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 320 average, because this is what they do. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. But, it's impressive still, and they don't go out and sign high-priced free agents unless they absolutely need it. And, they didn't do it this year. But, I fully expect them to be near the top of the division, as they always are.
It's going to be an interesting race. And I guess we can kind of start with the Reds real quick. I mean, they go out and they make some moves this offseason. Moustakas, they have him slotted to start at second base. Who else did they bring in?
Brought in, well, they traded for Sonny Gray. Maybe they brought him in. I'm not sure, but I know he's a part of that team.
Yep.
To go along with Trevor Bauer, Trevor Bauer's who they traded for. They signed Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
About it. They brought in Wade Miley, Freddie Galvis.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about adding bat and adding those pitchers already to a great young pitcher who I highly underestimated in Luis Castillo. He is one of the best sliders I've seen in Major League Baseball. Just nasty. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how. Oh, Nick Castellanos. That's the big guy that they brought in. He was just hiding there at the bottom of my screen.
Yeah, and they had the guy at the end of the year too, Aquino, who's like the young guy came up through the minors that just hit like an insane amount of home runs in a small sample of at bats, and Suarez hit the most home runs. I mean, the ballpark helps, but in the NL last year, and then you add Moustakas, you add Castellanos.
The Reds could. So, are you guys saying the Reds could be dangerous this year?
I think I'm thinking it more than Dre.
I'm trying not to think about it, but looking at the team, it's just.
Because Dietrich's, is he there?
He's not there anymore. They let him go, and they let him go because they signed Moustakas.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's no. Yeah, I'm just worried if there being other like issues between the Pirates and the Reds while the Pirates are just getting their butts kicked by the Reds.
Well, I would hope that that's just gone because like Clint Hurl's gone, and I think that was part of the problem that Brian Price had was he hated Clint Hurl's philosophy, which I mean, it's not crazy to want to pitch inside, but when you start hitting people, it's part of the game. He was worried about, our guys get hit more than most, but like the Reds historically have destroyed the Pirates with, hit by pitches. Again, before the Brian Price era. But no, looking at this team, I can see why they're the actual betting favorite to win this division. And that's fine. I get it. I just worry because, the Reds, they haven't been there in quite some time, and I know it takes some time to rebuild, but guys like Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer, I mean, I don't think they're all that great. And you throw them into that ballpark, it's just only going to be, magnified. So we'll see how that works out. I think that's kind of where I'm at in terms of deciding if they win or if they lose. Like, can those two guys really carry the load?
Is there a team in this division that kind of stands above the rest, or do you guys think that this division will be close just because everyone's kind of on the same level, if you know what I mean? Like, is there a team in this division that could go out and win the World Series, or is this a division where it's just going to be like everyone's beating up on each other like night after night?
I think it's going to be more of the latter.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're not going to have a 162 game season, but I feel like this division winner may not necessarily get to 90 wins. But like, it's going to be the Cardinals, and somehow they're going to do it with 85. Like, that's just what the Cardinals do. I mean, I think no real World Series threats, but solid teams in this division.
Yeah, and if I were to pick a team out of this division that could win the World Series, it's the Cardinals because that's what they do. There's no real need to evaluate there with them. But every single day they're going to be beating up on each other. I mean, a team we haven't even talked about yet was the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
And that's a team that, a little bit depleted in terms of what they lost. I mean, they lost Moustakas in the division. They lost – whoops, I hit my camera there. They lost Travis Shaw as well, but, Christian Yelich is coming back healthy and, just got signed a nice big contract. So, they still don't have any pitching, but at the same time, that's a team that, comes to the ballpark every night ready to go and slug it out with you. So this division is going to be a dogfight. And, I do like the Cubs. I do like them changing up their manager, but at the same time, it's just a matter of can they avoid certain things like injuries? Because, Yu Darvish went down and he hasn't really helped them since he signed that contract. But yeah, it's going to be a dogfight every day within the division, intra-league play.
I mean, I feel like every year we talk about with the Brewers, that they have the hitting to get it done, but it's always, do they have enough pitching? And again, it's a year where I don't think they really went out and made any moves to kind of strengthen that starting rotation. I mean, when is it going to happen, Dre? Brooksy, when are the Brewers going to go out and finally decide to get some pitching to kind of help this lineup?
Not in the next few years. They have Yelich on a pretty friendly deal.
Team-friendly deal now. I mean, they have Hader, who kind of solidifies the back end of the bullpen, and then you have this lineup that's just full of power hitters and contact hitters left and right. These guys are like 2-3 pitchers away, solid pitchers away from possibly winning the World Series, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 2 years ago they were Game 7 of one game away from going to the World Series. But I think this year, like even in there, offensively, losing Moustakas is really going to hurt.
Yeah.
Lorenzo Cain had a great year 2 years ago, not so much last year.
Yeah.
So like he took a big step backwards, and just like where's that offense behind Yelich? So yeah, I don't think this is the year where they're gonna compete in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a big loss is Yasmani Grandal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he really helped them last year. Helped with the pitching as much as he can. If you don't have good stuff, the least you can have is someone call a good game and help steal some strikes with good framing, and that's what Grandal did. Now that he's gone, I don't know if Omar Narvaez can do the same thing. Their new catcher that they brought in, I believe he was actually on the Rays he was on the Mariners last year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, step back for sure. Just losing some guys on this offense. Ryan Braun's up there in age. It's going to be big to see if Kane can bounce back. I don't like that contract right now because it's inhibiting them from actually signing top-end pitching.
Yeah.
I like Dallas Keuchel as a guy I thought that would be perfect for them.
Yeah.
Especially last year. But signing Yelich kind of helps. It kind of helps them understand that now they have time to extend their window because they're going to have him into his age 30. I mean, he might text himself back, but he's still a really good hitter, so if he takes a step back in anything, it's probably power. But yeah, with their pitching, that's kind of their Achilles heel. And not their bullpen, it's their starting pitching.
Yeah.
Which is a bad Achilles heel to have.
The guy they throw out on the mound to start every game is up and questionable. But I mean, it's pretty much you have it. The NL Central is going to be a dogfight, guys. It is year after year. It's going to be interesting to watch if the season actually gets started this year. And we get to watch most of it here right in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be fun to see how the season plays out. And you never know, guys. Your Pirates, they might surprise people. You never know. I know it's hard to be positive, but
rock bottom expectations.
Don't you dare do that to me, Matt. Don't blow up my head because I will drink that Kool-Aid. Don't suck it down.
Hey, I do it every year with the Bills. Last year was the first year that I saw the fruits of my labor.
It's easy though in football, honestly. It's so much easier to be so excited in football.
No, I mean, I can see. I mean, there's only 17 games in a year for football, and there's 162 for the baseball. So it's a lot easier to do for football, because then you lose hope halfway through the season, which is only 9 games, and then baseball, it's you gotta last 60, 70, 80 games before you're
you have 4 months.
Yeah.
When your phone just gives you alerts.
Yeah.
Of oh,
it's
it's 11:04 now.
All right, you got the bottle. Bring it out.
Sir, it's 3:00 on a Sunday. Yeah, but it's the 6th inning and the Pirates are down 4-2. Trying to snap this 3-game skid.
Oh, it's going to be another interesting year of baseball. Hopefully. Let's pray it comes back sooner rather than later. Guys, but it's been fun. Again, for episode 5 of the 2020 season. That's all we have time for today. So thanks for joining us again. Enjoy your quarantine life. Binge a lot of Netflix, play a lot of video games.
Tiger King.
Tiger King, watch Tiger King. Have you guys ever seen Royal Pains? I've been on a Royal Pains kick lately. I don't know
No.
if you've ever seen it. It's like this guy's like a concierge doctor in the Hamptons. He's actually pretty funny. It's a good show. So I've been binging that lately. Playing a lot of Warzone, playing a lot of NBA 2K.
I need sports games just to get me through. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I was thinking about starting to stream games, but I'm not very good, so it doesn't work out.
That's how I am with COD. I'm not very good. I have my moments, but I'm still trying to adjust the Warzone. It's awesome. It's so much better than Fortnite.
100%. I
will argue with that to the grave.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode. We'll talk to you later. Bye.